Is that the sound?
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are back once again. Thank you so much for taking time to obviously watch the program today. Now, obviously today I'm hosting a lady who's been married for about 10 years. She's got 3 kids, and of course she's married to a man who is in the teaching profession as well. They met during the time, they used to go to the same church, met, and after being friends for a while, they decided to go further and of course get married. The firstborn is 8 years of age. The secondborn is actually turning 4 this year, and the thirdborn is 2 years of 2 years old. They've been married for the last 10 years. She's a student, she's an author, and of course she works for a government a department. She works for the government really as well. So now my area of interest and of course my invitation to her for coming to this particular program today so that we can have an up close and personal with her is because of this particular book that she's published. So this book is called Morality at Crossroads, Moral Decay and Its Effect. She's a mother and she's got a full-time job. She is also a housewife. The question is, how does she manage to juggle all these things together? She's going to explain to us how she manages to get everything done, and of course just how she has managed also to get this publication done. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest on the program today is Dorcas Singombe Basila, who is in the studio with me. Dorcas, good to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Quite simple. Somebody might not actually think you do quite a lot. How do you manage to get all these things done?
Like you said earlier, I'm a wife, a student, and working. My department has been so kind to me. They gave me study leave. So at the moment, I just go to school and manage the family.
Okay.
Mostly, I just go for work when I'm on recess.
Okay.
Yes. So it's been a hard journey, but I'm trying to manage. Where you have a lot of things to study, have modules waiting for you, assignments and all that. The kids, like when you just come back from school, the kids will be all over me. Mommy, 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 you know that. So I think that's the hardest part. But what I usually do is 20:30, I have to make sure they've gone to sleep. And then I study a bit up to somewhere 24. I sleep a bit. And then 04, I start preparing.
Okay.
Sure.
When did your journey for the Morality at Crossroads book writing start?
Well, on that one, I'm staying with a man who's actually interested in moral uprightness. So most of the times he used to talk about it, how we can live lives of moral uprightness. So I thought, wow, why can't I just write a book on morality? So it actually took me 6 months to have everything put in a book, but it took me 2 weeks to finalize everything.
Okay.
Sure.
Interesting. Before we can even go further in your career, in your interest in writing, just tell us a bit more about yourself. Who is Dorcas really?
Okay. Dorcas, like you earlier said, I'm Dorcas Singombe Basila. I'm the 7th born in a family of 8. A wife, a mother. My father used to work in the correctional service, but right now I would say I'm a farmer's daughter. I did my primary education at Mukoveko Primary School, and I did my secondary education at Mukoveko Secondary School. Right now I'm a student at Cavendish University, Zambia. I've had an interesting background.
Okay.
We didn't have all the good things money could buy, but my parents made sure that we had at least something to eat, and they made sure that we go to school, we have an education. And for that, I really appreciate them because
you should.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. 8.
It's not.
Wow, it's not easy. It's not easy. So now, Ella, you talked about being a farmer's daughter. Did that interest in farming start way back in relation to dad, mom? Did they start engaging in farming long time ago, or maybe after they had retired?
They've been farmers since way back. They were actually doing the farming even when my father was working. But my mother was mostly involved, engaged in gardening and all that. And we used to manage by that.
Okay.
It's unfortunate I'm not so much into farming. But they're very good in that area. So it started way back.
Interesting. Now, looking at the trade that mom and dad had interest in, farming. Growing up, really, you guys take time to accompany them to the fields, go and obviously farm together with them, so that you can learn a few things about agriculture.
We used to do that. But most of the times I would make up excuses because I'm not into farming. So most of the times I would actually spend it at school. When I go to school, off at 15:30, I would come back home at 17.
Okay.
Just to find everything done. But you know what mom used to do is she would wake us up at 03. 03, no, let's go to the farm. We at least do one or two things.
03?
Yes.
Wow.
And would carry cans, water the garden and all. But really, I'm not that into farming. So it was a challenging time for me. But like I earlier said, I used to make up excuses. But at least I learned one or two things. And my husband actually loves farming.
I can imagine. Well, the fact that he's an academician, and of course he's into the teaching fraternity. I think for people who are teachers to say, agriculture seems to come natural. It's more like men and women in uniform.
Okay, sure.
From the look of things, agriculture just slides in naturally for them. Because at the end of the day, I've never really seen a police camp without gardens. Wow, my root, I had a lot of relatives. I have a lot of relatives.
You're right.
Exactly. In fact, from my mom's side, I think my grandfather was an officer. So agriculture is something that we enjoyed during the break times. Exactly. So I'm sure that it comes naturally. How about today? How is the level of interest in agriculture for you? Especially that now again, dad is an agriculturist and you're married to somebody who's got interest in farming as well.
On that one, it's been quite a challenging journey because he's into farming and then I'm not just that into farming. What he's doing now, he's planted a lot of flowers at home. And most of the time when he's home, he's also into mechanics. So you find at times when he's done with his work, he would start watering the flowers. And our area is a bit small, so it doesn't allow for a big garden. But we're at least doing something. But I was thinking to myself, maybe I should be a supportive wife. No, I don't just know how to get a hoe and just go to the field. That's why it's a bit challenging. But I think I'm still learning.
Okay.
I'm still learning.
Interesting.
Because futuristically, I think I'll get into that.
I guess so. Because I'm sure that he must be thinking of perhaps one day getting a farm, probably settling
He's
at
been
a farm.
talking about that.
Well, he's been talking about. Oh, interesting. So sooner
There
or later.
was a time actually he was looking for a farm. I think there's someone who promised him to say, okay, I can sell you my farm, and then you said, no. When he brings up that topic, like, mommy, we'll be going to the farm, we'll be doing this. When December comes, at least all of us go to the farm, and inside I'll be like, wow, this man. So in my head I'm like, wow, this man. Doesn't he know that I'm not interested in this?
Wow.
But then at times I'm just like, okay, let me try to be supportive.
Well, that is the beauty part. At the end of the day, no matter how much you're going to run away from it, but the fact that you have to be a supportive wife, obviously, you have to learn how to plow. Well, you missed an opportunity to learn from dad, but I'm not sure if you're going to miss this one out.
I've not.
Exactly. Well, so now tell us a little bit more about your family. 3 kids, 5 all in together. Your husband, and of course the 3 kids. Just a brief picture of your family.
Okay. My firstborn is in grade 3. She's going into grade 4. Right now they've gone for holidays. They're at my in-laws' place. My family is quite fun. Like, you enjoy the company. When you just reach home, I'm used to having people receiving me, welcoming me. Mommy, what have you brought for us? My 2 boys are quite naughty.
Okay, so you've got 2 boys, 1 girl.
1 girl.
Okay.
I have 2 boys, 1 girl. They're quite naughty, but manageable, I think. So it's actually interesting. We have there are times when we sit together as a family. You know, my husband is there teaching my daughter to actually make a budget. So we're trying to train them to actually know certain things that supposed to be done, so that even when they've grown, they have it easy.
Exactly. Interesting. So now, if you look at, you know, your family, your kids, what are your biggest fears that you have as a mother? And perhaps maybe you might have echoed some of your fears, maybe unknowingly, in your book as well. What are some of the biggest fears that you have when you look at your daughter, you look at your sons, and you look at the environment in general as a mother?
Looking at the things that are happening, that's actually the more reason I wrote Moral Decay, Morality at Crossroads. Looking at the things that are happening, I really get scared, because thinking of my daughter growing up, becoming a big girl, I'm thinking, what if she falls pregnant in the way? You know, what will my sons be when they grow up? So I really get scared, but what I usually do is just pray for them, and most of the times I get them. We pray together for guidance and direction, but most of the times I fear for who they'll be. Yes.
Okay, interesting. What makes you have those fears?
The happenings around, and knowing that mostly I'm not home. I'm busy. There are times again when I'm home, but I'm preoccupied with so much work. So I don't usually spend that much time with them. So that kind of makes me afraid.
Okay. When you compare your growing up and the way your daughter is growing up today, is there any difference that you've seen in terms of just everything, the way you were brought up to the level that you got married, and the way, you know, and the environment in which your daughter is being, you know, raised up today, up to the day when she will be married, I don't know how many years from now? Any difference that you've noticed?
There's a big difference. My daughter is very talkative. She's quite outspoken.
From you too, who's she gotten that talent? You don't seem to be talkative. You don't seem to be talkative.
Yeah, I'm not that talkative, but you never know. You know, looking at both families, you never know. We come from different homes. I've had a quiet life, and you know, my mother wasn't working, so she was always there for us. When you come back from school, she's there. If she's not in the garden, she's home. So most of the times we used to spend it with her. She was always there for us, I would say. Looking at my daughter now, like I said, she talks. She talks, and I'm not always there for her, I would say, because of the busy schedules and what I'm doing.
I would love you to talk about your quality of discipline, you and your husband today. But let us talk about the quality of discipline that you received. How was what was your curfew when you were growing up as a girl in a big family of 8? What are some of the rules that dad, mom did put up to make sure that you guys are protected? Because I believe you went into your marriage, you got married legally.
Yes.
You never fell pregnant. But today you'd find that most of the people are getting married. If she's lucky, she's married, you'd find that perhaps she might be pregnant already whilst she's getting into marriage. It was different with some time back. Are there any specific rules that you can remember that dad put up on the table that enabled you guys to grow up disciplined?
I would say they were there. You know, my father never used to tolerate us coming late.
Okay.
So in as much as
coming, what's the time that your dad used to say it's late?
18, you should all be home. 18, you should all be home. So mostly, and my father used to take in interest in knowing our friends, knowing what we're doing at what time. So I think that really helped me. It molded me into the person that I am today. Because most of the times I would think of doing something, I'll think of my dad. Dad has put so much trust in me. if he allows me to go to school actually and come back at somewhere by 18, then he has so much trust in me. Yes. So I think that was a weapon.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
That was a weapon.
So now, if you look at if earlier, I think before we went live, you shared with me how you met your husband through church. You became friends, and during that friendship, just mere friendship, he popped up the big question, and you said yes, and later on you got married. How was it easy? How was it for you to relate with him, knowing the fact that dad had put up 18 hours to be the maximum time that you need to make sure that 18 everybody's home? So how did you used to relate with your future husband, who is currently your husband?
I was very active when it comes to church programs, youth movement. I used to go. I was very active. And at times when I'm going home, he would escort me. So when going, actually, we'd be talking. We used to talk about a lot of things. Yeah, so that really made it easy for me to know him. We were friends, and then after some time, he just popped up a question to say, "Will you marry me?" I didn't have a second thought on that one. I just said, "Yes, I will." Because I was really convinced to say he's the one.
Okay.
He's the man.
So you guys, you never dated. It was just from friendship into marriage.
Yes, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you married your best friend. He married his best friend. Oh, okay. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, at what stage did dad mom come to know about him?
When I was in grade 11.
When you were in grade 11.
Yes.
Okay. You met him when you were in grade
9.
9. Would you love your daughter to meet the future in grade 9?
Not now.
Okay. Okay, great.
No, I really don't.
So you guys...
I would actually be strict on that.
You'll be strict on that.
I can't tolerate.
Okay. Was that strict on you when he came to find out that, okay, you've got a male friend who is just a male friend and a church mate at the same time? Was he strict? How was his reaction when he knew about it?
He was strict. He was strict. I remember there was a time I went home after 18. He beat me. He beat me up.
What? You were beaten?
He did, yes.
What happened? What happened for you to go beyond 18?
Beyond 18, I think we were chatting. I was chatting with him, and we didn't even look at the time. When you're with your loved one, what usually happens? You can't even notice that it's late. So I didn't actually notice. I was so much into him that when we were chatting, I didn't actually notice that time has moved so fast. So when I went home, he was like, "I don't want you to be like this." But looking at the nature of the man, my parents knew to say he was such a responsible young man. Yeah.
So you were beaten not because you were with him. You were beaten because he went home late. Okay.
Actually, they didn't even know that I was with him.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. All right. So now, I'm trying to connect the Moral Decay and its effect publication and what you went through, really. Exactly. How far was too far for you guys when you were, after he popped up the big question, and you said, "Yeah, yes, I'll marry you." Okay. So there, officially, courtship started for you guys. Exactly. How far was too far for you guys between then up to marriage? I think you know what I mean.
Like I earlier said, he was such a responsible man. He had to wait for me to actually finish school and then get married.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So he was very responsible, and he's a kind of a man who encourages me to actually go for what I want. Yeah. So most of the times he used to encourage me to actually concentrate on my school.
Okay. Interesting.
So we never got into any of that.
You never got into any of that?
No, until marriage.
Until marriage.
I would proudly say that.
So you guys, how did you put your feelings in check? Because I mean, feelings are the same. Feelings of today and feelings of yesterday are the same. Especially that you guys were so much into each other. You can imagine that you decided to break the rule that you knew so well. You went home late because you are with a loved one. Exactly. How did you guys to keep your feelings in check until you waited until marriage? That's when you decided to open up.
Wow. We used to pray over it most of the times. And mostly he would say, I know you have friends who actually encourage you to do certain things that I can't do. Because I really want to wait for you until that time when you're my wife. When you are officially given to me, legally.
Legally.
Yes, so
he didn't want to eat somebody's, he didn't want to eat what he thought was his illegally. Wow.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
So he was actually so disciplined. At times I would think, because of friends' talks and all, they say, no, when a man loves you, you have to, if you want to show him that love, you have to do this with him. So most of the times I used to think, I don't give him this, maybe he'll leave me and all, but no, he was such a different person.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay. Interesting. So when you look at what you wrote in your book, what you went through, and of course what you've seen today, what do you define as moral decay? When you say, wow, there's a lot of moral decay today, why? What have you seen so far, which you feel is different from what happened to you and what you see today?
Yeah, there's so much moral decay. You know, I would say those days, like let me just look at the how children are growing now. Children are growing differently from how the past generation used to do it. This time around, if you try to maybe just discipline my child, I won't have it easy on you. But those days, I think people were allowed to discipline children who are not even your own. Yes. And then these days, I was just reading somewhere where this person went to actually sleep with a minor, someone who's 3 months old, simply because they were lied to. They were told to say you have all these riches and all. So I was looking at that one. I was like, this is inhuman. How would someone just go and sleep with a minor? Someone who's 3 months, 3 years old. So I looked at that one and looking at the videos as well that are circulating about women. No, a woman has erred. People take those videos and actually post them, share them. You know, that really got me thinking. That's so sad. So I looked at all that and how technology is being misused. Yes, so I decided to put everything in the book. You know, these days, love amongst humans is diminishing. Selfishness, there's so much selfishness. People these days, some people, I would say, think only about themselves. I can't do anything for you. What will I gain if I do this for you? So, you know, people are thinking more of themselves than others. So I looked at all that.
Okay, interesting. What do you think would help two young people who are in a relationship today to keep their relationship clean and, according to the way the Bible puts it, not defiled?
What I would say is that they have to keep their relationship godly or spiritual, lack of a better term maybe, and pray together. Pray for the relationship. You know, if mostly when you're into godly things, it's very difficult for you to get into that, because you know what God really wants. But it's like now we are misusing that free will that we've been given. You know, God won't push you to do something. No, He won't drag you. No, but He's given us the free will to actually decide on what we want on our own. So if we actually use that free will wisely, that would really be helpful. And in a relationship, I think we are all responsible. We all have to be responsible over that relationship. I have to be responsible as a woman. You have to be responsible as a man. So we have to actually agree on certain things. Yes. Biblically, it's not right for two people who are in a relationship to actually test that which is only supposed to be tested by people who are married.
Even if they love each other. Yes. Even if you know, I've already proposed marriage to you.
It's not right. Oh, it's not right.
Okay.
It's not right. So we have to actually try by all means to keep ourselves pure by actually engaging ourselves in spiritual programs. Going to church also helps. When your friends are going to church, don't just remain home. God knows what you'll be doing back there. But no, let's also be engaged in church programs. That really helps. And pray for the relationship. Sure.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, those are wise words coming through from a mother of an 8-year-old daughter who seemed to be quite talkative, quite open-minded, and a daughter who will soon be exploring the world. Those are some of the fears that mothers usually have. How will my daughter grow up to be? Is she going to fall pregnant along the way? Who are her friends? How am I going to teach her to make sure that she grows up into a responsible daughter? Those are common questions that mothers usually ask, and of course it's because of that Dorcas decided to come up with this particular publication, where she decided to get all her thoughts, all her minds combined with her experience and what she has seen in the environment, and put them in this particular publication. We take a break. When we come back now, she'll be telling us more about this book, and of course why you just need to read it out, and of course why you need to share your experiences with what others are experiencing as well. For now, we take a very, very short break. We'll be back.
The best gift one could give another is a clock, simply because it is a constant reminder that nothing lasts forever, that our time is not limitless. The tick and talk that never stops warns us in which the time passes us by with or without announcement, for its nature is to remain constant and eternal. Maybe that's why we humans tend to regret the time we didn't cherish and spend well enough, because our nature is never safe and sound.
Alright, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm profiling this particular lady. Her name is Dorcas Singombe Basila, and of course she's a mother of 3, 1 girl and of course 2 boys, married to an academician, a teacher by experience, and of course by profession as well. And on top of that, they've been married for about 10 years. She works, and on top of that, she's a student at Cavendish University, pursuing a bachelor's degree in purchasing and supply as well. And on top of that, part-time, this is exactly what she does. All right, so now tell us more about your book, really. What treasures are found in your book?
Okay, in my book, you'll find what moral decay is, and you also find how you can come out of certain situations. You can decide on whether you want to perish or you want to pull yourself up. So you will actually find all that in the book. Mm-hmm. I've also written the effects of moral decay. I've written on self-development, self-empowerment, and all. So that is what you expect to find in Morality at Crossroads.
Okay.
Sure.
You talked about self-development and self-empowerment. When you look at society, which one seems to be the problem? Which one seems to be a problem, especially among the young people today, between self-development and self-empowerment, according to your observation?
According to my observation, I think self-development is much of a problem.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why so?
You can develop yourself in so many ways, but it's like people today are so comfortable with what they have. Mm-hmm. You find someone actually watch TV from morning up to 24, and they sleep very late, wake up the following day, just like that. That is a routine. They're not actually investing in so many developmental programs. There's so much that we can do. There's a lot of ways in which we can develop ourselves. So just by you purchasing that book and reading what is there, you're actually developing yourself. Doing what you love most, you're actually developing yourself. And actually avoiding to listen to talks, the naysayers. You avoid all those people. And there are a lot of people who actually want to impede your every move. So you avoid all that. So I think self-development is much of a challenge today.
Okay, interesting. How do we close up that gap really today? Especially that, we are living in the times the Bible usually says, calls the last days, where people usually look at something bad to be good, something good to be bad, where they feel sugar is salt, salt is sugar. Exactly. A practical example. Today you'd find that if somebody comes up today and says, well, I've never had sex before, well, that person will become a laughing stock. He or she will become a laughing stock because everybody now is thinking, well, you just need to do it. If somebody comes today and says, I don't take alcohol, well, that one is a joke, a big joke really. Exactly. So times have changed. Things are upside down now, the way we look at them. How do we begin closing that gap to make sure that, our children grow up in a more responsible society and grow up as responsible adults?
Nelson, like I said earlier, we're all responsible for our well-being. So we should actually be responsible. And if you want to develop yourself, you look at yourself and what you can actually do. If you look at my profile and what I've said, I've never done any writing course. What I'm doing is totally different from writing. Yes, and my line of work is actually different from that. Yes, so writing a book is quite one way of developing myself. I thought to myself, okay, I need to write this book. I've always wanted to do it. So I thought, let me go for what I want. Of course, I received critics. There's some friends I called. I told them to say, I want to write a book, and they were laughing at me. They were saying, no, you can't. How are you going to ensure that it gets published? So I said, well, it's a bumpy road, but let me start it. Let me just start climbing that ladder. And though there were actually thorns on the way, but I just had to work up and get out of that those self-imposed limitations, and just do what I love best. I love writing. Even when we were courting with my husband, I used to write him a lot of letters.
Okay.
I think I didn't mention this, but I was quite quiet and introverted person. Most of the times I used to fail to express myself. And you find that I'm with him, but I won't tell him what I want. When he goes, I write a letter. I write a letter and then take it to him. I brought this letter, then I leave. So I thought, well, I had this, he actually told me to say, you know how to write. So I was like, okay, let me develop this. I have this writing skill, I feel. So let me try to develop it. So I think we have to equip ourselves with a lot of developmental things. Reading a book, investing in a book is actually one way of developing yourself. Keeping yourself busy is actually one way of developing yourself, and just moving out of that sluggishness, moving out of that watching TV actually the whole day. That drains you of the time that you're actually supposed to be making money out there. Yes, and not looking at your beauty and say, no, I can't do this because I'm way too smart, I'm way too beautiful to do this. I think we have to move out of all that and just go out there. If it means picking up litter will give me money, I will do it. If it means sweeping the streets, I'll have money at the end of the day, I'll do it. That really helps.
When you look at society today, when you look at society, the environment itself, and our communities, in your own opinion, how safe are our children?
They are not very safe. They are not very safe looking at the many happenings. There was a time when we were hearing of ritual killings. This person has been killed somewhere, defilements all around, rape cases, all that. Even the type of friends that they have at school, our neighbors, So these days you can't really trust anyone fully, because you're thinking, okay, if I leave my daughter with the uncle, looking at the stories that you've heard, you're just thinking about what will happen, because of the many stories. Even when you have an uncle who's trustworthy, even when you have even when the neighbors are trustworthy, but because of the happenings around, the defilements, the killings and all that, they're not safe.
What can be done, really, to make sure that, our children feel safe in the environment in which we are bringing them amidst, this moral decay? What should we do from the household level to the community level, really?
Let's pray for our children. And even the upbringing we should be exemplary. Let's train ourselves, let's train our children rather in a godly way. If we teach them what is supposed to be done in a godly manner, our children will actually emulate. And we have to, as parents, we have to also be examples. We have to be an example to the children, You have an argument with your husband, for example. You're doing it in the full view of the children. What do you think the children will become? They'll emulate and they'll take that as a way of life. So we have to be an example. And for the society, if we can have lessons on how we can train our children. We have many centers where we have counseling, or where we can take our children to be trained in certain skills. Just having lessons, maybe, and just an outside environment away from home, but a very educative environment, that would really be helpful. And it's also up to us, as we have to take up the responsibility to make everyone safe around us. Yes, so like I earlier alluded to this, that everyone is responsible. The safety of the nation is up to us. The way the church will be led, the whole nation, it all depends on the upbringing and what the morals that we're inculcating in our children. So we should pray. We should pray for our children. Let's have at least evening prayers where we are together. During that time, we can talk about how our day was. We take in interest in what our children are doing, even as we live. Like some of us who are working students and living children at home, we take in interest in knowing what they want. If I know what my child wants, I'll be able to help where I'm needed. Sure. That won't push my child to, in case they want something, that won't push them to actually go to a boyfriend and ask for
So what do you want the kids to do? Okay, the kid comes and says, "Mommy, therefore I want kwacha," and you say, "I don't have." And wow, there's a boy outside there who has got a 2 kwacha. What will stop the child really from getting that 1 kwacha? As a parent, what do you think really? How much time should parents be spending with their children?
On the time, looking at the busy schedules, but I think we should allocate enough time for our children. But even when you spend a short time with your child, as long as what you're talking about is for the benefit of the child, that will make an impact. That will really make an impact. Sometimes we have to go out with our kids, just take them out, spend time together. That really has an impact. My children, I told you my children went for a holiday, right? Mm-hmm. But when my husband was going, he passed through Fringilla, and they had a good time there. And when he came back home, he was like, they really had a good time. That is so memorable, and that actually stays in the child. That makes an impact. So just that action makes an impact. So I would say maybe we also invest in our children. The little time that we spend with them, let it have an impact on them. Yes. Interesting.
How much support did you get from your friends, your family, and your husband when you are coming up with this project?
I'll start with my husband. Such a good man. He's been so supportive, 100%. I don't even complain about it. My husband has been there for me. You know, when I started this journey, firstly, actually before I started, I told you he's always talking about moral uprightness and all that. So I thought, wow, why don't I just put all this in a book? Plus the little knowledge, the little information that I have, combined with his ideas and other people's ideas, that would actually make a book. So my husband has been so supportive. And even this time when the book was, when the book actually came out, he was like, Mom, now think of what you write next. Start thinking of another book now that this one is out. That's support. My parents, my in-laws, my sisters, there's some friends actually who've not been for the idea. But most of my friends have been supportive. And I really want to say thank you so much, because they've really been supportive.
Amazing.
And I have a lot of people, strangers actually, who've come in and helped me.
Interesting.
Sure.
Lastly, how far would you love to see yourself really go when it comes to, you know, this career as an author? Now it's moving away from being a part-time job to being a career, because now that you know morality at Crossroads is out, I'm sure that you feel more motivated to write even more books.
Yes.
And of course have more books really lining up on the shelves in libraries, and of course people reading them out.
Sure.
So what's your next stop? What's your next project? I'm asking you like your husband now. Mommy, have you come up with something to write? So have you already thought about something that you'd want to write?
I've actually come up with the title of my next book.
Okay.
The Power of Being Unique.
The Power of Being Unique.
Sure.
What do you want to address?
I'll write something on that.
What would you love to address? Who would you love to be your target audience?
The youths.
The youths.
You know, I have a soft spot for the youths and the young ones. I really have a soft spot. So whenever I'm seated, everything that I'm doing, I have them in mind. I'm also a youth anyway.
Yeah.
So I had them in mind. So I'm targeting the youths and the young ones. Amidst the immorality, amidst the bad things happening, you can actually stand out. Sure.
Okay, interesting. Well, finally, thank you so much. But before I let go of you, 2019, we're only 8 days and plus in this year. How is the outlook of the year for you? How do you think the year is going to be for you?
Oh, it looks interesting now, son. It looks so interesting. Yesterday I was here on the breakfast show, and in the evenings when you called me, I was like, wow, 2019, this is really my year. And you know, looking at the book, I think it will be an interesting one. I don't think, actually, I feel it will be an interesting year for me. I just want to get a message across. I want everyone to read that book, and I'm looking forward to a situation where the government will actually adopt my book, so that it's freely given, it's freely distributed in schools and churches and all around. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
Sure.
Interesting. Well, Dorcas, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you so much, and of course, keep up. We'll be waiting for more publications really coming out.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nelson.
All right, what a fine example, especially, you know, for married people out there. Exactly. I think despite you being married, despite having multiple tasks that you have to do, you can still do what you love to do. Dorcas has definitely proven that by, you know, living up to her dream of publishing a book. And of course, well, it's already out. Have an opportunity of reading this book out. It tries to highlight the moral decay in society and what can be done to make sure that, you know, the society we live in is, you know, better for the growing up of our children and of course the future generations to come. Remember that she's not the only one who's spoken about, you know, the moral decay, but Michael Jackson, before he died, in one of his songs, Heal the World, he talked about why we need to make sure that we make the earth a better place to live in. So it takes you and I to make sure that, you know, we create the change that we want to see. And it starts with sharing that kind of information. So get yourself a copy, make sure that you read it out, and try to practice what is there. This message in this book is coming from a mother, somebody who is working, somebody who is also in school, and on top of that, a wife as well. So you can imagine that she is 4 in 1, and all that vast experience that she has put in one book, and of course sharing that information with you. Quite experienced. Well, this is it for today. I'll be back tomorrow same time with obviously more interesting guests that will inspire us to live up to our dreams. On behalf of my director of the day, Felix, is bye-bye and God bless.